going on, guys, and welcome back to the show Bet Against Me. Today we're going to talk about a little college basketball, some NBA, some NASCAR, a little bit of golf. Ricky Fowler was at the top of the leaderboard earlier today. Like to see that as a Fowler fan. But like always, me and Christian are going to start off the show by talking about how we did last time. So last time we had some decent picks, no particularly terrible beats. I went 6-11, broke even, and Christian went 7-11, beat me by 1. The only things we really got wrong, or specifically me that I really got wrong, was I was convinced that the ETSU game would be played a lot cleaner, a lot better than it was, and that they would hit the over pretty easily. I was dead wrong about that. It was an ugly game, and it hit the under. And I was also pretty convinced that Vanderbilt was a terrible basketball team. I'm still pretty convinced that they're not very great, but they are better than I thought, and they handled South Carolina at home.
You're coming around.
I'm coming around, but I'm still not convinced that South Carolina is, in fact, a good basketball team. But we'll see. So, like I said, today we're going to start off with a little college basketball. Big, huge slate tomorrow that's got a lot of action in it. Then we're going to go to a little bit of NBA, a little bit of NASCAR, talk about golf, and we'll wrap it up with some more college basketball. So let's start out at Florida State at Clemson. Florida State is a 2-point favorite in this game. Florida State has cooled off, losing 2 of their last 3 games, but I actually still think they're one of the best teams in the nation. I wouldn't want to see them in the ACC tournament. I wouldn't want to see them in the NCAA tournament. But Clemson, on the other hand, is a team that's barely 500. They're 4-11 in their conference, and the last time they played Florida State, they lost 109-61. Everyone is really trying their hardest to make Clemson a good basketball team, but they're really a losing basketball team in a great conference. And I don't know that being a losing basketball team in the best conference makes you a good basketball team by association.
The thing about teams like Clemson, or Vanderbilt for that matter, is you might not see the skill or the value of the team based on what they've looked like in games past, but you can find value and you can see skill if you just really have to look hard for it. I think Clemson actually is a pretty underrated team for the most part, even though they're being talked about for the NCAA tournament. I think that people really are sleeping on themselves. Now, being qualified for the tournament is a whole nother discussion. A team like Clemson would need to get a win against Florida State in this case on Saturday to build their resume and to make a strong case to make it to the tournament. And usually these teams can pull it off. I don't necessarily think that will happen. I think Florida State is a good basketball team. However, they are coming off of 2 road losses to Pittsburgh and Notre Dame before they won versus Boston College.
Both of those teams are good teams, hard places to play on the road. I can't penalize them, Florida State, for losing those games.
I don't penalize them that much. The thing about just going on the road, I don't penalize a team for losing on the road at another good team or another tournament team.
Especially in the best conference in the nation.
Right. And Clemson is one of those teams that I think that they will definitely give Florida State their best game. And I think there's no doubt about that. But if you just look at their ACC play throughout, they've always had close games against good quality top tier ACC teams.
They certainly have
at home.
They've got a lot of games within 2 and 3 points of really good teams, but that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. They're a losing basketball team. They're not a winning basketball team. And just because they're losing in a great conference doesn't, by association, make them good.
No, but I think that in times like those, I think it's just all about execution more than who the team is. And I think if you have the right players in place, and Clemson does. I mean, they have Jerron Blossomgame, who I'm very high on. I really like him a lot. And Shelton Mitchell as well. I think that they have quality players in place. I just think that they've had trouble succeeding in the execution of tight games like that. And that's no knock on them. I mean, losing by 3 versus North Carolina, or losing by 4 versus Virginia, or 1 point versus Virginia Tech, couple points to Duke. Yeah, just those type of things. You can't penalize them for it.
There's a special tournament that you get to go to when you lose games against good teams. It's called the NIT.
That's true, and I mean I think that they have the ability to execute in close games. However, in this game particularly, I think Florida State needs for their psyche going into the ACC tournament and going into their last 2 matchups versus Duke and Miami. I think that this is a game they have to win, just to build some confidence. I think Jonathan Isaac will have a great game, and I think Dwayne Bacon will go right at John Blossom game, and I think that'll be a battle. I think Florida State wins it easily.
Clemson is certainly going to be motivated. They've probably got, any chance they're clinging to at a tournament berth is obviously invested in this game. They got embarrassed at Florida State. So I don't think that they will not be motivated. I just don't think they have the talent. I think they'll be 4-12 at the end of this game. I think Florida State covers, and covers by a lot.
I think that Florida State has the ability to cover. I think it'll be much closer than people might think, but I think Florida State will end up covering it.
The next big game on the slate, Florida at Kentucky, another Florida team. The last 2 times these teams played, it was also kind of a blowout and not a great day for Big Blue Nation, as the Wildcats lost by 20 in Gainesville. Kentucky's shown glimpses of greatness in the past few weeks, but they've also squeaked by some really bad teams, or less than stellar teams like Mizzou and Georgia over the past couple weeks. Mizzou had them, by 2 with 6 or 7 minutes left in the game the other night. Meanwhile, the Gators, as much as it pains me to say, haven't lost a game in a month. They've got wins over Oklahoma, Kentucky, and South Carolina down that stretch. Florida 17-9 against the spread. Kentucky 15-12, 11-6 against the spread at home. So, Christian, can the SEC with the SEC regular championship on the start over with the against the spread stuff? Florida 17-9 against the spread. Kentucky 15-12, 11-6 against the spread at home. So, Christian, with the SEC regular season championship probably on the line, you think the Gators can pull this one off in Rupp Arena?
I do not think that. And I think that Florida has been playing magnificent, even with their recent loss of a starter at their lineup. I think that they've battled through that. I think with Florida and Kentucky, and this is just a different matchup than anybody they're playing in the SEC. This is 2 top-tier teams that it's gonna be a brawl, that's for sure. But I think Kentucky obviously has a sour taste after that first loss to them by 22 at Florida. I think that they're going to be coming out very, very, very motivated to prove something, not only to themselves but to everybody that was a fluke loss, and that they have the team that the top SEC team.
So you think that Kentucky will cover that 3-point spread?
I think they will, but I'm hesitant to say that because I still think that Florida can keep it close within a 1-possession game. But man, I like Kentucky a lot. That I think that they could even win by 10 at Rupp.
Kentucky does play well at home. They play a lot better in Rupp Arena, especially this year, than they have on the road. They've been not very good on the road at all. Of course, Georgia pushed them to the brink at home. Florida's a lot better team than Georgia. Florida is one of the few teams in the nation that I think can defend. They can play offense. They can pass the ball. They can shoot. They've got a decent coach. I don't see any major flaws in their game. Yeah, and defense travels particularly well. They're a good basketball team. I think they're a little bit underrated because of the conference they're coming out of. I think the conference is underrated as a whole. Florida is really good against the spread. I'm going to take Florida in the points in this one. Florida +3. I think that if Kentucky wins, it's a squeaker.
Yeah, I like Kentucky at -3. I think it'll be close. I think Florida's defense keeps them in it. But I think that Kentucky really is going to play motivated and be able to pull this one out.
It'll either be one of two responses. Either, Kentucky got beat by Tennessee, Kentucky gets them at Rupp Arena and destroys them. The difference is Florida's a lot better defensive team than Tennessee or really any team probably that they've had in conference. I think that travels better.
I think with Kentucky though, it's their ability to, from what I've seen when they play at home, I think their ability to execute consistently on offense. Now, that's totally different when you're talking about a defense such as Florida's going against them. But I still think that Kentucky riding the crowd and at Rupp Arena, I think that Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox and Bam Adebayo will be able to play well enough to keep them ahead.
So the next game, Texas Tech at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is 6-point favorite in that game, and Oklahoma State might be one of the hottest teams in college basketball, having won 9 of their last 10. Their only loss was against Baylor, a 3-point loss. Texas Tech, though, has had a propensity to play some extremely close games lately. Lost to Kansas by 1, lost to TCU by 1, beat Baylor by 6, loses to West Virginia after having a big lead in double overtime, and then loses in overtime to Iowa State. Texas Tech is certainly an improving basketball team, even though they're 5-10 in conference. Oklahoma State, on the other hand, has went through the same kind of improvement phase earlier in the season, and now they're starting to surface on some people's top 25 list. Texas Tech 15-12 against the spread. Oklahoma State's covering their spreads at 17-9. So, what I wonder is can Oklahoma State, I'm pretty sure that Oklahoma State's going to win this game, but are they going to win it by 6?
I mean, it's a good question to ask, considering what Texas Tech has been through recently. Kind of feel bad for them, honestly. I knew that looking back on them before the TCU and Kansas game, I knew that they had to get a couple good quality wins. Now, the Baylor win was good, but I knew that they pretty much had to win both of their home games for the rest of the year, and they needed to get one road win for them to feel comfortable enough that their resume was solid heading into the tournament. Unfortunately, they ended up losing to West Virginia in a double overtime game, and then they lose to Iowa State by 2 in overtime. Now, I think that Iowa State one probably hurts really bad, and I'm sure it still stings. But they have to come around and go against, like you said, one of the hottest teams in college basketball in Oklahoma State, winning 9 of their last 10. I think that they have shown tremendous improvement over the year from when they first started Big 12 play to where they're at now. I think that their ability to just execute in general. I mean, their offense is something to just marvel at. Their ability to consistently execute on the offensive side is something I wouldn't normally associate with Brad Underwood teams. But
Juwan Evans scoring 19 a game, 6 assists.
Right, and he's done great. Jeffrey Carroll as well. Phil Forte is playing great as well, and that's actually a name I was looking up earlier. I thought that he had graduated because he had started. He was a freshman the same year as Marcus Smart coming in. But I mean, their ability to execute is something to marvel at, and I think that's still gonna reign supreme on Saturday. I think that they're going to be able to execute against Texas Tech. No slight to Texas Tech, though. I know they have been playing well lately too, and I know they're going to come into this game hungry for a win with their losses. I just think that there's kind of no way for them to stop Oklahoma State's streak at Oklahoma State.
I think Oklahoma State wins the game. I'm taking Texas Tech and the points because I'm wary of how close they like to play opponents and lose. They're kind of like Clemson, a bad team in a great conference. They're not a winning team, but boy, they play people close. I'm taking them in the points. So the next game we'll do is West Virginia at TCU at 2 o'clock on ESPN tomorrow. West Virginia is obviously one of the better teams in the nation. Had a little bit of a scare the other night when Bob Huggins collapsed on the court, holding his heart, but he turned out to be okay. They're 17-10 against the spread. TCU 9-16 against the spread. West Virginia is a 5-point favorite in this game. West Virginia's been playing pretty good lately. TCU is not good, not a good basketball team. Matter of fact, if you go to @JCBresnock on Twitter, you will find his pinned tweet says, if any bracketologist includes TCU in the tournament, or if anyone in general tries to argue for them, discredit them entirely. Okay, Mr. JC Bresnock, please argue that TCU is going to win this game so I can discredit you entirely.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think that TCU is an all right team, if that makes sense. I mean, they're right there with Texas Tech, in my opinion. I think that they have. I don't know. I really don't know how to classify what I like about their team. And when I did tweet that out, I mean it was 11 days ago, and that's when I really was against them. But I mean, looking at them now, I mean, I don't feel any different. I don't.
For the record, they have not won a game since you tweeted that out.
I don't think that they should be in the tournament, but that's not to say that they haven't had good wins. Granted, all of those are in conference at home. No road wins really to call home unless you consider that Kansas State one. And if you think about their last 4 games that they have lost, I mean, isn't that just such a brutal gauntlet of games? Baylor, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Kansas. I mean, they've really had it bad. Now they got West Virginia at home. And I think that they really need to prove something here. I think that with 2 home games left and 1 road game, I think that they have to pretty much go 3-0 for them to lock themselves in the tournament. So I think that they know that they have to prove something here. I think that they have to get it. I wouldn't say have to get a win. The next game against Kansas State would probably be a must-win. But I think that they really, really want this game. West Virginia, a traditional Bob Huggins defense, just one of the best in the nation. I don't think that they'll allow TCU to, I don't want to say make a run, but I don't think that it'll be particularly close.
They play with a lot of intensity.
Yeah, West Virginia is just a great team altogether because it's a traditional Bob Huggins team. I don't want to say that they won't allow TCU to keep it close. I think TCU, for all the reasons that I listed previously, I think that they're going to know that they have to prove something in this game, and I think that they're going to definitely give their best effort. And so that is my riskiest pick of the week, I would say, that I think TCU will be able to cover their spread, the +5.5.
If they do, it'll be because Nathan Adrian is the worst player in college basketball. If you go to @JaxonX3, you will see that I tweeted that recently as well, and he proved me right again when they played the other night.
Keep in mind,
Nathan Adrian is awful. Pull up some advanced statistics on Nathan Adrian and tell me how awful he is, because he looks clueless every time that I watch West Virginia play. It actually makes me mad when I put money on West Virginia and then I see that I've actually indirectly put money on Nathan Adrian's skill at the game of basketball, which makes me mad at myself. But I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take West Virginia minus the points because I don't think TCU is a very good basketball team. I think they're a little bit overrated. Their win count's high because they didn't play anybody out of conference. And they can't win games in their conference. West Virginia is not going to be any easier than Kansas, Baylor, Oklahoma State, or Iowa State was. So I just can't see it. I think 5 points is a small spread for West Virginia, and I think they're getting that small spread because they've been playing close games lately and allowing people to come back. But that's the thing; they haven't really been close games. They're allowing people that have good offenses to come back. TCU does not have a good offense. They're 160th in points per game, 184th in rebounds per game. They're not good. They're just not a good basketball team. They don't have they're not as good as West Virginia is. Like by any, it doesn't matter where they play them. I don't think that this game is actually particularly close. I definitely do not think TCU belongs in the tournament. I think that they are another bad or average basketball team in a good conference that is being good by association, which doesn't exist. But we'll see.
I am very surprised that West Virginia has not left a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, no, they do. It's not West Virginia. It's Nathan Adrian. He has left a sour taste in my mouth because every time he gets the ball, he shoots it and misses the goal. Like not the hoop, like the rim, the backboard, everything. He misses the entire thing, or he tries to like dribble and does this thing where he just like fumbles over himself and then like hands the ball to the other team. The other night when they were playing on ESPN, they said that people used to boo him on campus when he was a sophomore, and I totally I connected with that on a spiritual level, because it's like if I went to West Virginia and he played for the team that I would probably boo him too. He's not. I mean, he looks like he should be good, and then he's just not.
Just doesn't execute. I think that's the big thing with them.
He's just. He could have all the talent in the world. I don't know. He might practice, so he just doesn't execute. And it's like the bigger the moment gets for him, the less he executes. Like he got a tap in the other night that sealed the game or whatever, and good for him. But literally the ball was in the goalie. He just had to like push it in. But if it's a clutch 3 situation or they're down by 2 with 20 seconds left, please do not give Nathan Adrian the ball. All right, some smaller conference, if you consider the A-10 a smaller conference, action from tomorrow, 2 p.m., VCU at Rhode Island. Sorry, I just slammed my hand into my microphone, but it'll be okay. VCU is, this actually surprised me when I saw the line of this game, that VCU is actually the underdog. VCU's first in the conference. They're 23-5, 13-2 in the conference, and they're going to be the 1.5 point underdog at Rhode Island, who's 18-9, 10-5 in the conference. Rhode Island's a good basketball team. They've won some really close games lately, like we talked about last time against George Mason. They won another close game against LaSalle, I believe. But VCU is a good, I think they're a good They don't really lose. They lost a couple close games earlier in the season. They've won quite a few in a row here. Like me and Christian were just discussing before we did the podcast, I don't think that VCU is a team that I want to see in the tournament. If I'm circling teams with first round upset potential, that's the ones, because I don't think they're going to get as high as a seed as maybe they deserve because they play such a weak schedule. But I don't want to play them. I'm wanting to play someone else. So it's surprising when I look at the line. That's surprising that they're not at least even odds. I get that it's at Rhode Island, but I mean, it's not like Rhode Island's playing at Rupp Arena. There's a little home court advantage, but I'm surprised at that line that Rhode Island is the favorite in this game. What say you, Christian?
I can't complain against the line. The only reason I can't complain is because I do like VCU, but I really think highly of Rhode Island as well. Just looking at their schedule and their year as a whole. I mean, they've got a win over Cincinnati, played close against Duke. Their losses in non-conference were to Valparaiso, not a bad team at all. They're going to be in the tournament once they win their conference tournament. Lost by 3, and they lost by 3 at Providence. And Providence is actually putting together a stretch to try and make a case for the tournament as well. I think that they're a good team. They've kind of slipped up throughout the conference, which leads me to believe that they're obviously on the outside looking in, Rhode Island. But that's not to say that they're not any less qualified than those at-large teams. I think that they do have a quality team, and they've been able to play fairly well at home, other than a couple losses to LaSalle and Fordham. 1 point loss to Dayton at home. Now, with Rhode Island, I don't know which team's going to come out because they have the ability to really show what they're made of. They're better than anybody in the the
A-10.
Atlantic, the Atlantic 10, and that includes Dayton. With VCU, they're the traditional VCU team that we've seen ever since Shaka Smart really inherited them. Then Will Wade coming in has just not missed a beat where Shaka Smart left off. He's just kept the momentum going, and once again, VCU, another quality team that has just an absolute ability to really close out games and enforce their game plan on you. With this game in particular, though, I think this is their only meeting of the year, and I think Rhode Island really needs to show. I don't want to say the committee because I think it's far past that them making the tournament. I think for themselves going into the conference tournament, I think that they need to do something. And it's all gonna be about their ability to execute on offense against a stingy VCU defense. Rhode Island's defense is great too. That's no downplay to them. But I think that Rhode Island is going to have to carry the wave of their home crowd, and I think that they're going to have to really pounce on VCU from the opening tip and just never let up. And I think that actually will end up playing out, and I think Rhode Island will win this game and cover that spread.
So Christian's on Rhode Island. I'm on VCU. Let's talk about one that I missed badly last week in Villanova. Villanova, an 11-point favorite at home against Creighton in the Pavilion. Last time they played at Creighton, it was a 10-point Nova victory. Creighton is particularly good against the spread, 18-8-1 overall against the spread, and 7-2 against the spread away. Villanova, just the opposite, 11-15 against the spread, 6-8 at home against the spread. But last Saturday, I picked against them with Seton Hall and kind of got bamboozled. They ended up beating Seton Hall by about 30 points. I foresee a similar thing happening here. Villanova obviously just lost to Butler again. I don't know that I want to catch this Villanova team motivated off a loss. This is a 3 o'clock game. Plenty of time to wake up, get comfortable, settle in. They're one of the best teams in the nation. They're going to be a number 1 seed. Creighton's a good basketball team, and Creighton covers their spreads really well. So with not a lot of confidence, I'm going to say Villanova, fool me once, shame on me. Or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not going against Villanova again. I'd say they probably end up covering that 11-point spread.
With Villanova, I think, kind of honed into their how good they are in their spreads. And I'm not gonna downplay Villanova. Villanova is obviously one of the best teams in the nation, if not the best team in the nation. Now they're coming off that Butler loss. That was an ugly loss. I did watch it, and I think that Villanova just weren't able to execute. I really don't know how to describe how Butler plays against Villanova, but they play
motivated.
Motivated. That's one word, but they are one of the best teams in the nation when they're playing Villanova, and they've shown it in both of their meetings, and were able to pull it out against Nova. With Creighton, though, it's going to be all about their ability to execute. I think Justin Patton has to have a huge game for them to sniff a win, and Villanova has to have another poor night, which I don't think will happen. I think Villanova is going to win the game, but I took Butler last game on their spread. Their spread, Butler was plus 10, which obviously ended up panning out as Butler ended up winning that. I don't really trust Villanova with these bigger spreads against a quality team like Creighton. Now, that's not to say that Villanova can't cover the spread, because once they get rolling, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Chris Jenkins, you're just not going to stop them. Michael Bridges, they're just too good of a team when they're all clicking, and they're just going to rattle off points and just bury you. So Creighton has to not only keep it close offensively, they really have to tighten their defense up, and that's going to be the only way it's able to be close. I think Villanova wins, but I think I'm taking Creighton at plus 11.
You're on Creighton, I'm on Nova. Let's do one more, and then we'll talk about some other stuff before we come back to the night games. Let's do Purdue at Michigan, an extremely interesting game because this is a pick'em. This is even odds, no spread. Purdue hasn't lost in a while. They're a winner of 6 straight, although Penn State did give them a good challenge this week. But they go into Michigan to face the Wolverines as a bona fide lock for the NCAA tournament. Michigan, on the other hand, is one of the most perplexing teams to bet with or against in the nation because I guess you never really know what you're getting with this Michigan team. Are you betting on the Michigan team that beat Michigan State by 30? Or are you betting on the Michigan team that lost to Illinois by 16? Michigan's one of the most streaky teams in the nation that when they get it going, they really get it going. That Wagner kid can just drain him from downtown. He's good inside. But it seems like when they're off, they're not very good at all. It's particularly like they were in the early part of the season where it seemed like they were one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. Now they're, above 500 in the Big Ten. Purdue, on the other hand, the model of stability. They've been pretty good on the road. They've lost a few on the road, but overall they've been pretty solid. They've been great at home. They've got one of the best players in the Big Ten, maybe one of the best players in the nation, in Caleb Swanigan. Even odds at Michigan. I think I'm on Purdue, but how about you, Christian?
Well, like you said about Michigan, they're a very perplexing team. Purdue rattling off these 6 games in a row with wins versus Northwestern, at Maryland, at Indiana, and versus Michigan State, which was a really impressive win. However, that Penn State overtime win wasn't all that impressive considering it was Penn State, but they were able to pull it out. I think with Michigan, I think you really only have to look at their last 5 to really understand how this game might go. Their backs were against the wall after they lost to Michigan State and Ohio State, 2 rivals. And John Beilein, one of the best coaches in the country, has loads of tournament experience, knows how to get his players to play for him. Come back, destroy Michigan, beat Indiana handily at Indiana, beat Wisconsin, and the only thing was them losing to Minnesota in overtime. But Minnesota also a team with quite a hot win streak right now, or a really hot team in the country. So I can't really hold that against them, considering it was at Minnesota. I think this game is obviously going to be close, considering how hot both of these teams are going into this matchup. I think the only thing that I have that really will set Michigan apart is Derek Walton's ability to really turn it on as of late and really command his team as the point guard and really command that offense for them. I think that's going to be the overlying theme, and that Derek Walton and Wagner and Irvin, I think that they're just going to have a good game against Purdue. They know they need to have it for seeding in the tournament. Caleb Swanigan will have another double-double. That's a given at this point. But I think I like Michigan in this matchup. I think that Michigan is gonna win this one, and I'd take Michigan.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'm going on Purdue's steadiness because I can never seem to get on the right side of the Michigan game. When I go for them, they lose. When I go against them, they win. So wouldn't be surprised if you're right. So let's transition a little bit now and start talking about maybe some other things. We've got NASCAR, we've got golf, we've got a little bit of NBA to come, and then we'll go back for the night games. We're going to do 4 more college basketball games, Duke, Baylor, Marquette, and UCLA games, all to come. But first, let's talk about NASCAR this weekend. What do they have going on, Christian?
What's going on in NASCAR? Are you serious? Don't disrespect NASCAR like that. It's a Daytona 500. It's the biggest race of the year.
How was the first one the biggest of the year? That never made sense to me.
Okay, it's kind of I used to think that as a NASCAR fan, it always kind of baffled me, but it's just the prestige of the race itself, the history, the just everything involved with it. Honestly, this and only years have really years of being a NASCAR fan have really shown me. It's a season in and of itself from the time you get there the week before. I mean, it is a week-long process getting up to the Daytona 500 and the race itself. I mean, just it takes a long time. It feels like a season.
Yeah. I would probably watch it if they put sand back on the backstretch. That's where they messed the whole thing up.
With them is I really enjoy the changes they're making, especially with the points, and I'm really excited for this season. This week has really made my anticipation for the race grow by the day. But looking at the race itself, got done with the dual races yesterday. Chase Elliott won the first duel. He'll be on the pole. Denny Hamlin won the second. Dale Earnhardt Jr. leading at 53 of the 60 laps, got hung out to dry on the second to last lap. But Denny Hamlin right there at the front again. Practice speeds from today really showed that Toyotas are a force to be reckoned with, and if all of those Toyotas get together, it's going to be difficult for anybody to get by them. They just seems like so much more speed than everybody else. And it might be exactly like last year. Just 4 Toyotas pacing the field, and then a Toyota photo finish. The odds themselves, though, they're looking at. I like Denny Hamlin at 12-1. I don't want to bet against Dale Earnhardt Jr.
No favorite.
Showing what he did yesterday, leading at 53 of 60 laps. I mean, that's just pure dominance. He just was in a league of his own, honestly, until Denny Hamlin got there. Denny Hamlin, also another outstanding restrictor plate racer. A couple other picks that intrigued me would be Kyle Busch at the 12-1. The top 5 I have Denny Hamlin 12-1, Brad Keselowski 7-1. Kyle Busch at 12-1, Jamie McMurray at 30-1, and Clint Boyer at 20-1. I loved what Jamie McMurray showed in his dual race. He showed that he's no slouch at these restrictor plate races either, and Clint Boyer is still showing speed this week. So it'll be an interesting race for sure. But Denny Hamlin leaving no doubt his skill at Daytona and restrictor plates, as he's just had a marvelous week once again.
I don't know who will win the Daytona 500, but I'd say the odds of me watching it are 100-1.
I will not take that bet.
The PGA Tour is also in Florida this week. They're a little further south in Palm Beach Gardens at the Honda Classic, playing one of the tougher courses on tour that involve one of the best finishes in the bear trap. Fowler is from this area, plays the golf course pretty well every time we play here, and he's 803rd. Ryan Palmer and Wesley Bryan lead. Palmer, an experienced PGA pro, you could see him winning. Lahiri, a stroke back. Graham DeLette up the leaderboard for the first time in a while. as well as Martin Keimer and Luke Donald. It looks like a leaderboard from maybe 2013 at the top. Some of the big names like Adam Scott, who won last time, sitting at 3 under, just a few strokes back. As far as the betting odds are concerned, I have to watch my bias here because I'm a huge Ricky Fowler fan, and I totally meant to place a bet on him earlier this week and failed to do so. But he's currently at plus 300 from third, lives in the area, plays good at this event. You could see him certainly winning. Ryan Palmer at plus 600 right now. I could see him winning. Adam Scott won the event last year. Only one golfer has ever repeated at this event, and that was Jack Nicklaus. Adam Scott is not Jack Nicklaus, so I'm not putting my money on him. Luke Donald would be an interesting pick at plus 5,000 if you're looking for value. Martin Keimer at plus 2,200, also an interesting pick. Looking further down the list, I see some of the long shots right now. Ollie Snydergen's played extremely well last week. This is kind of course you can make a run on if you get playing hot, because the scoring is not ever particularly low on this course, and if the wind picks up, it can be a daunting challenge. So if somebody plays really good and the rest of the field doesn't, just plays average golf, you can really move up the leaderboard pretty quickly. Snydergen's at plus 10,000. Poulter was playing good Thursdays at plus 20,000. He's got a long way to go now. But that's the long shots I see. I think the odds-on favorite here has to be Ricky Fowler. I think you're putting. Matter of fact, as we're speaking, he just dropped to 250 plus 250. So.
It changes just like that.
Changes live. I think the money. I think most people's money is going to be on Ricky Fowler. He hasn't won in a while. He's due for a win, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't walk away with this one.
Do you think that Adam Scott can make a run?
Adam Scott can absolutely make a run. He's 3 under right now, but. And he played extremely well at this event last year, but the lead's already at 9 under, and he won at 9 under last year. I'd say the winning score is going to be probably 13 under, if I had to guess. And this course is so difficult when the wind blows. If you're not 6 under already or so, there's really a very limited amount of people that could probably get to what I think the winning score is. I think the field is actually of people that can win is actually very small because the course is so difficult. But like I was saying, if you want to take a long shot, it can be done. You just have to shoot a really good score in really windy, difficult conditions when the rest of the field is not doing that, which is possible, but that's why you've got some big names that aren't that far back, like Jimmy Walker, Ian Poulter, Graham McDowell, Louis Oosthuizen, aren't that far back, but they're still sitting at plus 20,000 because this course is particularly hard to make a run on because it's so difficult.
Graham DeLay it for me.
Graham DeLay for you. Graham DeLay hasn't won in a while, and I'm not actually sure that he's ever won in America. I think he won at an event. I can't remember if it was a PGA Tour event or not. He is due. I would love to see Graham DeLay win. As he's a Puma golfer like Ricky, and that's kind of my style too. But
one of the biggest shames of all time was when he decided to shave his beard.
Yeah, he had a nice beard going. You're right. I could see Lahiri winning too. I really kind of passed over him. He played great yesterday. Played a good round today. He's an experienced pro. He's been around for a long time. I could see him winning. Also, like I said, wouldn't be shocked if Ryan Palmer actually ends up finishing. He has a tendency to come out of nowhere, win an event, and fade back into obscurity. This might be that time. So let's look on. Let's talk about a few NBA games. Let's talk about 2 NBA games that we like, Christian.
Yeah, I got 2 games for tomorrow. I got 2 8:00 games with Indiana and Indiana at Miami Heat. And the Cleveland Cavaliers or Chicago Bulls at Cleveland Cavaliers, at 8:30. Miami is at 3.5 right now over Indiana. I really don't know if I like Miami all that much. I think that Paul George was hurt from these trade deadline rumors. I honestly that was the weirdest thing, that the statements he had after that, like why he wasn't kept in the loop about trades. It's just a weird situation. Either Paul George is going to come out flat, or he's going to come out and just take over the game. I like Paul George a lot. I'd bet on him any day of the week. I think he will be able to have a good game against Miami, and I think Indiana wins this game. So I'd take Indiana at plus 3.5.
Indiana does not particularly like to play defense.
No, they don't. But the good thing with that is you're basically daring Deion Waiters to destroy you. He's done it this year. He's actually surprised, and he's in for a good payday now, for what he's been able to accomplish this year. But I just think that when push comes to shove, Paul George is still one of the best defenders in the league. So even if it is a close game, I still like Indiana in that case.
What about that Chicago and Cleveland game?
Yeah, Chicago, Cleveland. Cleveland is at -10 right now over Chicago.
Chicago is not a good basketball team.
Man, but people want them to be good. So
are they
bad.
the most disappointing NBA team in the last maybe 2 or 3 years?
Well, to me, I wouldn't classify them as that. But that's only because I didn't have very high expectations. I mean,
it seemed like there was a lot of hype in the offseason about the Bulls.
Yeah, I mean that's just any of those top market teams like Chicago or New York, anything.
Well, everybody expected the Knicks to be awful, and they are.
Well, actually, I mean, people were really excited about it when they got Derrick Rose, and
that's just because they're delusional.
Yeah, right. And with Chicago, though, I think that it's kind of the same delusion they were flying on. I think that they thought that they were getting Dwayne Wade.
That deal kind of reminded me of like how the people in Brooklyn, the Nets fans, felt when they got Paul Pierce and I believe it was Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce from the Celtics or something. And,
yeah,
it was like
Nets.
there was a lot of hype, and they started out like 1-19.
Yeah, it was not a good time for them.
It's like there's a reason that the Miami Heat probably was like, well, if we're gonna let Dwayne Wade go, it's probably not. It's because he's you hit a certain point in age, and you start not being able to do things, the same way that you could do them 2 or 3 years ago when you had LeBron James and.
I think with that, Pat Riley he set a bare minimum that he could afford to pay him for his skill set, even though he's long tenured pro, he's been in Miami his entire career.
A declining skill set.
Right. But I mean, for Chicago though, they were looking for another piece, and I can see why they thought that Dwayne Wade would be that piece. I think that they thought Jimmy Butler would gel and vibe with him.
Chicago perplexes me because if you think about like 5 years ago, I think the thought around the league and among people that just tangentially watch the league like myself was like, wow, that Chicago team's probably set for a few years. You would think that they're going to be, they're going to be relevant for at least the next 5, 6, 7 years. They're going to be a pretty good basketball team. They had, Joakim Noah, they had Derrick Rose. They were playing good basketball. They were in the playoffs. It seemed like they were really close to making a good playoff run, maybe all the way to the finals. And it just nothing ever. They just had stroke of bad luck after stroke of bad luck, and then poor player management. And how did they get to this point?
It's a combination of things. I think that they were right on the cusp. I think it was all set in motion when they fired Thibodeau.
Yeah, that was probably a bad move.
Management didn't really like him. Well, I mean, he just had that team playing amazing for him, and
apparently that he had them playing above their ceiling a little bit.
Well, I mean, they had an unfortunate set of events with Derrick Rose's injuries.
The most valuable patient.
Right, and it's just gotten to a point where they've been trying to claw back. Jimmy Butler came on for him. He was a glimmer of hope while Derrick Rose was out, is somebody that could score and keep them in games and keep them competitive. But they knew that they needed to build around him. But after trading Derrick Rose, I mean, I don't know how you could think that acquiring Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo and Robin Lopez. Keep in mind, still don't know how Robin Lopez is in the league. Only because of how great his brother is. Obviously, that's the only explanation I have for it. But to think that Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler could carry this team was just I really don't know.
Short-sighted.
Yeah, I think that they thought that they were going to be contending for at least like top 4 seeds, but I didn't see them as I saw them as barely making it into the playoffs early in the year. So it's just been a constant disappointment for them, and I feel for them because they've just been trying to claw back to relevancy, like to top of the East Division. But I think at this point they should scrap it and try to move on from it.
Who you like in the game?
In the game itself, I'm going to take the Cleveland at -10.
I think that's the appropriate choice. Did Skype just fuck up?
No, dude, I accidentally muted myself. Whoops. And then I turned myself back on.
I think that's the appropriate choice.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, no slight to Chicago. Once again, they have quality wins this year. I mean, it's not like they've been the biggest disappointment of all time. I mean, they've shown what they can be when they're all playing amazing. But
disappointing that they can't put it together on a nightly basis.
Right, and you're
from experienced pros, you would expect that.
You have to count on Jimmy Butler to just go berserk, and then Michael Carter Williams has to play well. Robin Lopez. I mean, it's like a snowball effect. Like you have to have them all playing at a certain level every night for them to keep up a consistent pace where they can actually win games and contend. And I don't think that they have the roster that is a model of consistency. It's just a model of inconsistency.
So shifting back to college basketball, we're going to do the first game is 4 o'clock, tugging at Christian's heartstrings, Duke versus Miami, but I'm going to tug at a few Duke heartstrings first. If you didn't see the game, I believe that was Thursday night.
With 5 seconds to go, they're going to pay attention
Wednesday
to the
night.
clock. Gillen. Got it! Syracuse win! Are you serious? Oh.
That has to tug at the heartstrings of a few Duke fans. Heartbreaking loss in front of about 30,000 people at Syracuse. So you've got a motivated Duke team, which might be one of the best in the nation now that Mike Krzyzewski's back on the bench. However, they're not very good against the spread, only 10-16 and 3-7 away against the spread. Playing at a Miami team who's playing all of a sudden like Giant Slayer, has played their way securely within the tournament, off the bubble. This is an interesting matchup. I don't know that it has a lot of tournament implications because I think Miami's in now. I think Duke is obviously in and one of the best teams in the nation, probably 2 or 3 line. But an interesting matchup to see if Miami can keep slaying the Giant.
Well, you're really tugging at my heartstrings with both of these teams, honestly. I grew up liking Duke as a basketball team, but I'm a diehard Miami fan. And Miami football is where I fell in love with college athletics. And Miami basketball has really been I would say my safe haven. That's where I go to really enjoy college games, especially with since Jim Larinaga has been hired, and it's just been the model of success for Miami. It's a basketball program that hadn't had a lot of success up until he had gotten there. Now 2 Sweet 16 appearances later, and he's consistently keeping us up there as a contender. The only thing with them is the years like these where we're kind of rebuilding. We're in the middle of trying to get freshmen to play, trying to build freshmen up, and it's kind of a struggle throughout the year to contend for wins. I mean, you can see the talent that they have, especially with Bruce Brown, especially lately with Bruce Brown, Davon Reed, Jaquan Newton, Kamari Murphy, Anthony Lawrence, just quality players that I enjoy watching every game. But also, I hate watching every game because I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Tennessee football, so I totally understand what you're saying. Duke, a 1-point favorite at Miami.
Yeah, it's hard for me to, looking at it objectively, it's hard for me to go against Duke in this case, knowing what they were able to accomplish past their little skid that they hit, and then they won seven games straight, where they had wins over North Carolina and Virginia and Notre Dame, just some quality wins. That Syracuse win probably hurts them really bad, and I'm sure that this is a really tough test for them. I mean, going down to Miami, and Jim Larrañaga coached Miami teams have had nothing but success against Duke and Coach K. Earlier in the year, they had a phenomenal first half against Duke, but came out in the second half lying flat on their face and just let Duke annihilate them. But that's still a game that as a fan hurts me to think about, knowing that was a game that you shouldn't let slip through your fingers. Now, I think that this Miami team has the ability to show that first half team where they played Duke earlier in the year over an entire game. But the problem becomes with the depth that Miami has. Play 7 players all together. 7 players or 8 players, and it's just limited. There's just so many minutes for their starters that it's difficult for them to ever get a rest, and I'm sure that it really wears on them. Whereas you have Duke, who has nothing but depth with all the freshmen they have, and then Luke Kennard, who's
it's like Alabama
baller.
Football.
Yeah, it's just a team that you don't know which player is going to come out, but if Grayson Allen or Jason Tatum or Luke Kennard comes out, even Matt Jones, I'll throw Matt Jones in there because he's had some phenomenal games where he just shoots lights out from the 3. Frank Jaxon as well. If you have those players, just one of those players playing at 100%, those players can take over games. Those players alone can keep you in a game, and that's all you need. So I think it will be close. Usually that doesn't favor this Miami team with close games in the second half with our depth issue. But thankfully, Jaquan Newton coming back off of a 3-game suspension, I think, and a 3-game win streak. I think that's going to help out a lot, and I think that's going to really just further benefit Miami more than what was seen earlier in the year. We knew we didn't have depth. We knew we had depth issues, but past 3 games rattle off three wins without Jaquan Newton. I think that this game will just him coming back will be able to benefit them. I like Miami in the game itself. And that's not speaking from a fan. I'm hoping Miami wins as a fan, but speaking objectively, I like Miami in the game.
Miami beat NC State at home. Miami beat North Carolina at home. Miami doesn't play Wake Forest at home. I think they're going to complete the season North Carolina at home sweep. I think they beat Duke by a couple points. Baylor at Iowa State. Iowa State comes into this one hot, winning 5 out of the last 6, including a win over Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse. Iowa State is a 1.5-point favorite at home in this game. Baylor, however, is supposed to be one of the best teams in the nation, but they're a bit on the skids. Close games with Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, losses at Texas Tech, and 3 losses against team with the name Kansas. Has Baylor 3-4 over their last 7. Baylor's 13-13 against the spread. Iowa State 10-5 against the spread at home. But I think the question you have to ask yourself before picking this game is, do you think Baylor is for real?
I think that I don't think you really have the ability to really question it. I know that the skid of the 3-4 in their last 7, I know that's cause for concern. But if you just look at the team and the teams that they beat this year, Oregon, VCU, Michigan State, Louisville, Xavier, all in non-conference, and still going to probably finish second in the Big 12, which is one of the top conferences, if not the top conference besides the ACC. So I think that it's a little cause for concern, but I don't think it's as big as what might show from another team. Now with Iowa State, I think with their 4-game win streak, I think it's not a fluky win streak, but I think it's teams that they needed to beat. I think that them and Oklahoma State are above Texas Tech and TCU, and I think that those are teams that they should be able to handle. I think that those are games that they should not necessarily easily win, but I think that they should be able to handle them and handle whatever run they may have. This Baylor team is a whole nother story, though. For them, the first matchup, only losing by 2 at Baylor, really shows you the quality of team that Iowa State has. And I think with the skid that Baylor is kind of been on lately, I think that Iowa State is going to play motivated. And I think that they're at home. I think that they want this bad enough that they will be able to pull out a victory against Baylor. It's going to be tough, but I think that they have the ability to do that. And I think that they have the offensive capability to. I think Deontay Burton and Monte Morris will have 2 phenomenal games against them. Jonathan Motley, he's an X factor. I will say that.
Great player.
Yeah, if he's on, I mean it's going to be hard for them to stop him. But I just think that with the combination of them being at home and knowing this is a good test for them, and going into last 2 matchups versus Oklahoma State and at West Virginia for Iowa State, I think that they come out motivated, ride this 4-game win streak, and be able to pull off this win. I have them covering that spread.
Iowa State, for me, is due for a loss. Baylor is due for a emphatic win. I'm taking Baylor plus 1.5. Marquette at Providence, 4 p.m. on Saturday. Marquette is 17-10 on the season. Providence 17-11. This is a battle in the middle of the conference. Both teams are decent against the spread. Marquette 13-12. Providence 15-11. Marquette's not very good on the road. 2-4 covering spreads, where Providence is 8-7 at home. What do you think about this one, Christian?
Well,
Providence. I'm sorry. Providence is a 2-point favorite.
I think this is a great matchup in the Big East. Providence is probably on the outside looking in the tournament right now. Probably a last 4 out. I think that they need to get this win at home versus Marquette, another tournament team, to complete what would be a phenomenal 4-game win streak with the wins against Butler, Xavier, Creighton, and then Marquette, if they end up winning that game. I think with the way that they've been playing lately, I think that they have all the confidence in the world that they're going to be able to do that. And the first meeting did go in favor of Providence. Of course, it was a 1-point game, which can't really look into that much.
That was at Marquette as well.
Right, yeah, but it's still a 1 point game at Marquette. Providence was able to seal the deal. I think with Providence's obvious um, obvious run that they're on right now, I think that they can handle Marquette again and pull off a win. I like them to cover that spread.
I actually agree with you here. I think Providence probably covers that spread. Beating Butler by 14 is all of a sudden looking really good, and they play in the Dunkin' Donuts Center, so I just can't go against that. They probably win. The nightcap, the big game other than Kentucky and Florida is UCLA at Arizona. I personally think that Arizona is one of the best teams in the nation. They have 3 losses, okay? They lost by 4 to Butler, who's beaten Villanova twice. They've lost 1 to Gonzaga, who's currently ranked number 1. And they had a bad game in Eugene and got destroyed by a fantastic Oregon team. Other than that, they haven't lost. UCLA has one of the best players in the world, according to his dad, in Lonzo Ball.
Wait, you're better than Steph Curry.
According to his dad, he's essentially better than probably Michael Jordan, among other basketball greats.
Can't dispute that, obviously.
I mean, we'd have to get his dad on the show, but I'm going to lean that he would probably say that. But we know. I mean, we make light of that. Lonzo Ball's a great player. He's one of the few players I think in college basketball that understands how to score the ball and how to get other people to score the ball. It's the same thing we were talking about with De'Aaron Fox last time. But UCLA's only lost to Oregon, USC, and then they lost the same Arizona team at home by 11. Now Arizona is a 1-point favorite on their home floor. Arizona's only 5-12 against the spread at home. UCLA's 13-12 against the spread at all. Does anything indicate to you that somehow UCLA can lose to a team by 11 at home and then go on the road and beat them?
Well, you just have to look at who UCLA has and the offense that they've been able to show all year, and you can't doubt them. You can't doubt UCLA because they obviously have one of the best offenses in the country. Lonzo Ball is a terrific shooter, terrific player. We did make light of the comments, but I mean that's it. Honestly, they're going to be probably the first pick in the draft. TJ Leaf, another amazing shooter, another amazing player this year for UCLA. Aaron Holiday, Bryce Alford, one of the best 3-point shooters in the country. It seems to make them better than anybody.
You sound like you're leaning towards Arizona, or UCLA.
I just don't want to make it seem like UCLA doesn't have a shot in this game.
Oh no, I think they have a shot, but
it's just with them.
This Arizona team is really solid, and they lost to a Oregon team that was playing out of their mind that night.
Right, and watching that game it was just brutal to watch for Arizona. But yeah, Arizona couldn't get anything going. It was at Oregon. Oregon had everything going. Where I think they made like six 3-pointers in a row in the first half at one point. I mean, it was just lights out. Just every time they went up and down the court. And this same Arizona team didn't even have Alonzo Trier for the first, I think, 19 games. Something like that, but they were able to still rattle off wins. Played Gonzaga to a 7-point loss. Played Butler to a 4-point loss. These are early losses. The only loss that they've had, other than those, is that Oregon failure. But I mean, you can't really hold that against them now, knowing that they're going against UCLA, knowing that they can wrap up the Pac-12 regular season title. I think that Arizona is going to win this game, and I think all you need to look at for validation of that is who Arizona has been this year, especially during Pac-12 play, and the past matchup, where even though the possessions of the game were 73. Which plays right into the wheelhouse of UCLA, even when they're shooting well. And they did shoot well against Arizona in their first matchup, Arizona was still able to not only stay with them, but outscore them and shoot better than them
by 11.
With the likes of Lauri Markkanen, Raul Alkins, Kobe Simmons. I mean, just great. I mean, great players. It just I think that Sean Miller is just a fabulous coach. You can't bet against him in a game like this.
I totally agree with you. I think Coach Miller has his boys ready to go. This is a big game, big moment at Arizona. I'm sure that scene will be electric.
No doubt about
it's
that.
going to be, if you can't win on your home floor against Arizona, try going in there as the 5th ranked team in the nation and try to beat them. That's going to be a wild environment to try to play in. As good as Lonzo Ball and UCLA is, I think they'll do fantastic in the tournament. Arizona's just too much to handle on their home floor. I would not be surprised if this line moves to 3 or 4, Arizona -3 or Arizona -4 before the game tomorrow night. It opened at -1, so that's what we're contemplating it at. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it creep up because you start considering all the factors. You know, Arizona's a basketball school, has basketball tradition. The environment will be electric. That's going to be a really hard place to win. But I'd say Lonzo Ball's dad is probably on UCLA, and if he's right, if Lonzo Ball is Steph Curry, or better than Steph Curry, maybe UCLA has a chance in this one. So for us guys, I believe that's all. We did, turns out we did 10 college basketball games, huge slate tomorrow. It was really hard to narrow them down to the 10 games that we wanted to do. We did a little NASCAR, did some golf. We hope you liked it. Hopefully we'll do another midweek podcast this week. I was deathly ill on Monday, and that carried over into Tuesday. We wanted to do one on Wednesday or Tuesday night for the Wednesday games, that huge, nice slate on Wednesday, but it just didn't happen because I was in my bed with a extremely high fever, but things happen. Life comes at you fast, but hopefully we'll be back next week with a midweek, and then we'll start getting into the conference tournaments and stuff, and the NCAA tournament. That stuff's coming up. Exciting time of the year coming up. So we'll hope you'll tune back in next time. My name is Jaxon, and
I'm Christian,
and this has been Bet Against Me.